My guests today are two of the most legendary pianists on the European scene, Aki Takase and Alexander von Schlippenbach. In addition to being longtime musical collaborators, they've been married for several decades. Von Schlippenbach's storied career includes founding both the Globe Unity Orchestra and the Berlin Contemporary Jazz Orchestra. He's also been deeply involved in the FMP record label, engaging in long-term collaborations with other FMP artists and even helping to run the label for a period of time during its early years. Takase is an experienced band leader who's played with a wide range of great artists, particularly in small ensemble settings where the communication between the musicians is a key feature of the music. As an instrumentalist, composer, and improviser, she creates works that are both groundbreaking and deeply soulful. So, Aki, Alex, thank you so much for being with me today.
You're welcome. Hello,
Hello.
Adam.
Hi. Um, so I'll start with a question for Aki. Aki, you were born in post-war Japan, to a mother who I understand was also a pianist. So I'd like to ask you to talk about your mother as a person and as an artist. And I understand that you started playing piano at around age 3, so it's very early in your life. But if you have any early experiences with the piano that you remember. I'd love to hear those too. And finally, without making it too big of a question, just in general, how did studying music impact you as a child?
Yes. First of all, my mother was not pianist. She studied at the College of Music, but she had to give up to go to the college because of the Second World War. Uh, when I was something like 3 years old, I started playing the piano at my mother's wish. At first, I learned from her, and she wanted me to give all her wishes, like piano studying, dancing, even two different dancing, like Japanese dancing, we say Nihonbuyo, and the European, more contemporary dancing. So Germany said Neue Tanz. And also composing music. So she wanted me everything her wish to bring, you know. Uh, it was the first I like to say something of my experience from beginning. And I like to say a little bit about my mother. She was a very honest person and very sweet, with a lot of humor. And I loved her very much. Unfortunately, she left the planet since 8 years. But anyway, she also liked jazz, and she was the one who has understood me the best. Little small story about with her mother. I am very lazy. Anyway, I still am very lazy to practice, so I still hate practicing. My mother wanted to hear me the practicing the piano. So instead of music note or sheet music, classic music, I played the music, the piano, while reading comic book. That helped me maybe understand the ability to read music very quickly. Maybe it was a good thing for me to read any music note. This was my experience.
Thank you so much, Aki. That's a really lovely story. And then Alex, I want to ask you a similar question. So I read somewhere that you started taking piano lessons at age 8. I wonder if you could describe your early musical development and talk about what music you were coming into contact with in your early life. So did you come from a musical home? What kind of music were you hearing?
No, I'm not coming actually from a musical home. My father played a little accordion and my mother played a little piano. But there was not so much about music in our family in the beginning of my early days. And actually, I got the first piano lesson in the age of 10 years. Before I didn't see any piano anyway. So at that time, the family was, of course, more busied with the survivor after the war, and I had to blame my very early childhood after leaving Budapest, where we have been before. We ended up, because we had to leave there because the Russians came closer, and ended up in Bavaria, in a little village called Törwang by Rosenheim. And there is a first important experience of live music I had by a Bavarian folk singer called Johann Jakob Reuter, and in Bavarian idiom it's der Reuterjackel. And this guy was made performances in other small village around Törwang in the Bavarian mountains, and I had the chance to see some of that, and I really was quite impressed. It was my first real impression of a man that makes a live performance, playing the guitar and singing his funny little songs. So some of that still is in my mind, and I stole one lick from one of his songs and made later a composition from that. It was called the Bavarian Calypso, and this was, I've been told it was even played in the Bavarian hit parade, but I don't really believe that. There was another thing that was much more important about my first musical experiences and also brought me to jazz. And this was the American Voices Jazz Hour. It was a broadcast from AFN, for the American Forces Network. It was happening every night from 12 o'clock until 1. And since I got an interest in music, because one of the guys in the boarding school I have been from my 10 years old, he had a record, an old shellac record by the Dizzy Gillespie Sextet, including, I remember everything, Dizzy, Don Byers, Bill Jackson, and J.C. Hurd on drums, and I think it was Tommy Potter on bass or something. A-side was Night in Tunisia, backside was Old Man Ribbab. And I was so amazed about that music that I really started to get very interested in jazz. And so I found out about this American Jazz Hour, and I had a little transistor radio, and I put my alarm clock on 12 and went to the bathroom with my little radio and used to listen to this broadcast, which was always for 1 hour. And I did this really almost every day for at least a few years in this boarding school. So I think this was a real important thing to bring me to jazz, and a little bit later I started also to play some music with friends of the school and played a little orchestra, and we tried to play a little jazz. And there was one guy who could play the boogie woogie, and he came from Berlin, and I was so amazed about it. So I tried to learn from him and imitate it, and this was my first access to the blues. So I think this was the most important things that brought me to jazz in my earlier days. Thank you.
That's such an interesting story. Wow, yeah, that thing about sneaking off to the bathroom to listen to the radio, that's really amazing. I want to ask you sort of about your further musical development, Alex. So I've read that you studied music with Bernd Alois Zimmermann. I wonder, yeah, what these lessons consisted of, and what you might say are some of the key things that you learned from him, if you don't mind, obviously condensing, summarizing a lot of information, into a pretty concise answer. And then finally, do you have any other teachers, in the past, I mean, who stand out as significant musical influences on you?
Yes, I was lucky enough to meet Bernd Alois Zimmermann while I did the studies of composition in Cologne at the music high school, and have I learned many things from him. First of all, many ways of time organization, which is a basic thing in composition anyway. Also about possibilities of semantic informations for the musicians, trans operations like Don Cage did, but in a different way for improvisers, and even the same importance was maybe even more important, even the direct collaboration with him, because he was quite interested in jazz, and we had a chance in the 50s already to perform and record music from him that was played for a radio play from Elias Canetti, and we used to play this whole music which was composed by him, and there were mainly big parts of improvisation and even some jazz-like things. Later, we also had the possibility to work directly on some of his compositions. For example, the first premiere of his famous opera Die Soldaten, there was a scene in a casino. Musicians had to play jazz, and this was also the Manfred Schof Quintet who had to play this episode. And funny wise, there was no piano, and I played conga at this piece. Later, it was his big composition, the Requiem for that artist, young artist, Requiem for a young artist, and there was also a big part of, or an important part in this piece to play by improvisers and jazz musicians, and I was also on that. He was anyway very important for me, because he was a kind of universal spirit, and it was everything he said was always interesting, and I think it had an effect, a big effect on the extension of my musical world and ideas. So far about Zimmermann. There was also another teacher I would like to mention. I had a few lessons by a very nice piano player from Belgium. His name is Francisco Peters, and he used to play at the radio big band, in the radio big band in Cologne at that time, and I got just a few lessons from him, and I learned many things, because just to watch him and see his action and his touch already gave me a great inspiration, and I started to play more jazz on the piano, and he also introduced me to Monk, because it was one of the pieces we had to work on. This is so far about my teaching, or my experience as a pupil of the two mentioned persons, different direction. Yes, thank you.
So, thank you so much, Alex. Aki, about your musical development too. So I've heard that as a university student, you got into artists like Albert Ayler, Ornette Coleman, John Coltrane, Charles Mingus. Before you got into some of the artists who really laid the foundations for some of that music, people like Monk, people like Ellington. And I'm wondering what it was that spoke to you at that early stage in your musical development in the music of people like Eiler and Coleman.
Yeah, for me, it's like you said, Albert Eiler or Ornette Coleman, Charlie Mingus, so they show me the freedom of playing. I heard their life force, and it what the individual has and the potential that music has. There were 6 universities in Tokyo that time. Nowadays there are many universities, but anyway, it was the time. University has a jazz society where students held session, jam session. And I was in at the session and playing with them. I used to also improvise freely, but one day I realized that I really need to learn basic idea of harmony or the foundation of jazz. I was also asked to write an orchestral arrangement, and then several jazz musicians, like a jazz pianist, I had to get a lesson, and also musical structure of jazz, and something I could really start to listen also later, Duke Ellington and Thelonious Monk. Anyway, it was a very exciting side for me. Just I was a student, something like 21 years old. And in Japan, there were many small jazz cafe. We say jazz cafe. You can listen only the music from the records. Anyway, it's not so easy to buy the records. That time jazz records. And then we went to the jazz cafe. Then I was listening maybe 2 or 3 or even 4 hours in the jazz cafe. And this owner of the jazz cafe, they depend on the jazz cafe's owner's taste. Some like to show the more avant-garde thing. Some of more sort of we can say mainstream. But I used to listen a lot of avant-garde scene. That's why before I said like Ornette Coleman, Charlie Mingus, Albert Ayla, and this small jazz cafe has a huge, very big store, box, and I should not speak anything. Just I got the coffee. Maybe nowadays, I don't know, 10, $5 or something like that. I have to stay and no speak at all, and always I listen. It was very big sound, and I really amazed from the music of avant-garde scene. And I really feel something like, because I was studying at the classic music, then I thought maybe I can do something myself. That was the beginning of my starting to jazz.
Wow, amazing. And I want to ask you also about. I read that you took at least one lesson with the piano player Yosuke Yamashita. Can you talk about your connection with him and if there were any teachers you had too who made a big impression on you?
Yeah. At least I had a lesson from Yosuke Yamashita, I think when I was 21 or 22 years old. And that time I learned from him the way of the bebop idea. And also, he said a kind of articulation, and he showed me like Bud Powell, Hampton Hall. He was imitated to show me the accent. And he said, bebop is very easy to recognize if I say, Chapau Pilapa. This is the idea of his idea that bebop is articulation, shapa pilapa, shapa pilapa. I have to also sing together, shapa pilapa. This was his very great lesson. But some years ago, I had a concert with him at the piano duo in Japan, and I still have a good connection with him at all, yes.
That's so lovely. My next question I'd like to address to both of you. If I wonder, and whoever wants to start, could you name some key composers or key musicians who have influenced you? These could either be people you worked with or people you've never met. And specifically, Aki, when you answer this question, I'd also like to hear how you've been affected by the work of Carla Bley and Konlon Nenkaro.
But you can.
Maybe
You can.
I start now because Aki just had to speak so much.
For sure.
So, yes, I think about early experiences and interest in music and influences. I think very important for me and most important for me was when I was busy with the works of Arnold Schoenberg. I think he is really a key and central figure in the music of the 20th century. Of course, he is famous for used the composition with 12-tone scales, which was not actually just invented from him. It was also, there was a guy before, or even a few others. I remember just the name of Matthias Hauer, but it needed, of course, a compositional genius like Schoenberg to make the thing really happening and make it such a great influence for the whole music of the century. Another composers of classical European music I like to watch was Haydn, Schubert and Mahler, I can say. About jazz, of course, I liked also all the great jazz piano players from Jelly Roll Morton, Fats Waller, Duke Ellington, Monk later, and so I like to mention especially one guy I loved especially, and I think he had also an influence on my approach and touch. It was the so-called legendary Hassan. As far as I know, he just made one important, well-known record with Max Roach and Art Davis. I still like him, and I think he is a real influence on my style of playing. The legendary Hassan.
Wow.
Thank you.
That's also amazing. Just sorry to cut you off, Aki, but yeah, I mean the legendary Hassan, I can't remember the last time I heard that name. And then it's so interesting too the way that people kind of create connections in different places, because Arnold Schoenberg ended up moving to Los Angeles, where I am now, and he taught at the music department at UCLA for so many years. So it's really interesting. Sorry, Aki, I didn't mean to cut you off.
So I should say?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, as a composer, like Igor Stravinsky and Prokofiev and Olivier Messiaen, I love to hear some I was playing. And influence from jazz player, many piano player like Thelonious Monk, Ellington, Cecil Taylor, Paul Bley, and Misha Mengelberg, I must say. And then now come to wonderful player and musician, Carla Bley. Carla Bley is one of my favorite, respect, beautiful musician and composer. When I heard Paul Bley, he anyway used to play a lot of her compositions. And also, I was very impressed also Carla's composition when especially she made a record with Charlie Haden Actually, this was Charlie Hayden record, like Liberation Orchestra. It was wonderful, great arrangement, and also color of the sound. I really love her idea of the sound. And also, I would say I was also influenced by the American composer Colin Nankaro. He made himself a punching machine in the player piano study. I heard many albums from him. And his essential idea is each instrument played at the same time in different rhythms and tempo. Actually, last year I had a chance to go to Mexico by Japan Foundation, and I met his wife. So Colin Nankaro was already died a long time ago, but his wife is still living, and she's Japanese, beautiful woman. And I spoke with her about the Colin Nankaro. It was really great because I really could see where he worked in Mexico City, because Colin Nankaro was living in Mexico City in a long time, and she showed me the great idea of punching piano play, how he works. So this was my great experience last year.
That's so fascinating. Amazing. My next question is also for both of you, and whoever wants to answer first can answer first. But I want to hear you discuss the importance of Monk's music, Thelonious Monk's music, to you personally as artists. And I imagine that you two may have connected to his work in different ways. So if your answers are different, that's okay.
Yes, about Monk. In the beginning, when I started to get interested in jazz piano, I was absolutely amazed about Oscar Peterson, actually, and later it was Horace Silver. Monk came even a little later when I discovered the strength and beauty of his tunes. Apart from his uncomparable touch and his strong timing, anyway, he was an outsider, kind of outsider in the history of jazz, far beyond usual jazz cliches. He found his own language, and he had an enormous position in the history now to extend even the idea of jazz by staying on the deep roots anyway. Thank you.
Alex said everything what I wanted to say, but I can repeat. Monk is an exceptional musician and great composer who has carried his own language and articulation and personality of jazz throughout his life. It was an amazing musician. I respect very much about Thelonious Monk.
And a question for Alex, speaking about another jazz legend, what was it like for you to play with Sam Rivers? Because the two of you made a recording together, excuse me, and the music sounds so deeply dialogical, like the two of you were so tapped into one another's sort of musical creativity. So I wonder if you can talk about Sam Rivers.
Yes, of course. Actually, we never played before together, but I had the chance to meet him on a workshop with FMP, and then we decided to play on the concert and even record a little bit later. So I remember a very, very concentrated work with him by just playing improvised music. And I think it was a little bit of respect from my side on his person, and even a little bit he took serious my approach to improvise. So it worked very well together, and I really like to remember this man. Sam was a really gentleman of modesty and noblesse, as far as I remember him. And I'm very happy and still proud of having the chance to play with him and even record with him.
And this is probably as good a time as any to ask, how did the two of you actually meet and how did you get together as a couple?
So, please.
Okay, it was actually in East Berlin on the DDR Jazz Festival. We have been introduced each other after our concerts in Hotel Stadt Berlin, and Aki was there with her Japanese group, and I had to do something with the DDR radio big band. So this was the first time we met each other.
And what year was that approximately?
This
87, I guess. Ne?
could be, yes.
Because I was not living in Berlin, I just came from Japan. I think 1987, this is before the war.
The wall was removed, yes.
2 years ago, I think, because Berlin was 1989, I guess. So maybe something like 2 years before. Because every year I came to Europe, and especially the producer of AR Records in Germany, he invited me to play some festival, the kind of concert tour in Europe. So every year I came to Germany or Europe. And then this time was before the border. Or anyway, this was before. And yes, there was a special festival, and I think he was working with East Germany, German orchestra. What they say?
It was the radio big band.
Radio big band, but this come from East.
Yes, it was in East Berlin. Yes.
Anyway, normally it's not so easy to go to East because we need a special ticket. But I had a chance to play also this festival. Then I saw him. Yes, this was the first meeting.
Yeah.
Yes. And later I can say a little bit. After that, I also invited to write a composition for the orchestra what he had. And I came to Berlin, and so this is the real thing. So we work together.
Yes.
Berlin just...
You had this commission to write a piece, and we had founded this orchestra, and then we could make a performance, and we got more close. Working
close
together,
to you, yes. That was...
Wow.
Anyway.
So that was before you were dating romantically that you were commissioned to write that piece.
Yeah. Right. Romantic
Destiny.
came a little bit
Destiny.
Later.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And another question for both of you. What is it like to create music with your partner that's made for public presentation? In terms of the creative process itself and also the emotional experience of creating music?
For me, this is not different. When I play with another player, and it has nothing to do with the personal things on the stage. Each of us is playing to the music we are most interested in. I say we are no different from a couple like selling vegetables. But our interest is not in selling vegetable. In what kind of the vegetable we value each other. Yes,
I can also say something about that. of course, it happens, so to say, from itself, since we have been together, that we tried also to make something about our music on piano, and we discovered the possibilities of four hands playing on the piano. Yeah? And so we worked out some things, compositions and improvisations. There was a record, it's just issued. The title is Four Hands Piano Pieces. It came out very well. It was not always easy. Sometimes also big fights at the rehearsal between us, but still enough reasonable results to go on.
I really like that recording too. Actually, it's a lovely album that as we air this interview on the radio, hopefully I'll be able to play some selections. And Aki, I was wondering too if you had anything you wanted to say about the four-handed piano works. Like, because sometimes, yeah, that sometimes you'll be sitting in the low register, sometimes you'll be sitting in the high register.
The piano condition, so piano can be positioned either up or down, depend on the pieces, depend on the, how to say, music, and our musical idea being played. So it more spontaneously. Yeah? We never decided completely, but we feel this is very good for me or for him as up or maybe down. But we don't really realize so much about, down or up. I think so. Depend on the stick, depend on the composition.
Yes, of
Yes.
course.
Also, sometimes we like to try because we play a lot of free improvise. And I thought maybe I can try a little bit more low position to bring some different things. And also he likes to play also very much like a high note. So this is very spontaneously. But we had to change the position.
Yes.
This is a bit not sometimes easy, but before anyway, on the stage, our rehearsal is no problem. We have time enough, but on the stage, we have to move each other.
You have to switch quickly, huh?
Yes. But it's okay. I like it. Because, I like to say, forehand mean we had a concert last time or the last year at the Berlin Jazz Festival. It was a wonderful, huge, big two piano. Not the one piano, two piano. So we could do anywhere, however we like to play, anywhere, no limited. But even so, we wanted to play together in one piano. This is limited. But it's also good musically sometimes. Yeah. Because piano has 88 key. Sometimes Beethoven is 92. A lot of. So 88 double mean it's 176. This is too much sometimes. Or too orchestration. What do you think?
Yes, also, anyway, my answer to this question about the importance of the high and low register and what it means is, of course, this is only my only answer. It is important. It affects the whole music. And we have to decide certain pieces we have, of course, decided before. You play the higher register and I play the low register. But we can also change more or less independent from a kind of basic idea to change the position. So sometimes I play the upper register and Aki plays the low register. So
I find that so interesting. Thank you both for that answer. My next question is for Alex. I want to know about your work as a conductor. I mean, any insights you'd be interested in sharing on that?
I have to say first, I'm anyway far from being a professional conductor. And apart from that, anyway, conducting is not just such a big thing, I think, when you play jazz. If you have good musicians and there is some straight tempo going on, you don't need anyway any conduction. Maybe sometimes give cues on certain places. And for some of my later compositions, I can also use give semantic information to the music, to the players, which means I can make signs with my hands, like moving melodies up, moving down, yeah, wave movements, accents with a point, but that is it already.
The sign.
Yeah.
And a similar question for Aki. I mean, I saw a video where you were playing in a duo, I think with a koto player, and you're basically simultaneously playing piano and then using your hands to maybe conduct is the wrong word, but send musical signals. I wonder how you developed this practice because it seems like a really effective way of communicating, but I can't remember seeing anybody else do it really.
Yes, but most of I think it's more so subconsciously. So I maybe unconsciously reacting with my body when I really need to tell my musician something like what also before Alex said. If I like to really have something more slowly to go to up, a kind of idea from abstract things, then even some unconscious, I start to do something like, moving. But I never think, now I do this or that. It's more really subconsciously I make a lot. Because when I was playing with 7 musicians together, I really wanted to give the cue, a kind of cue, not conducting cue, and something like they can feel something different if I do, like some action like this. Some musician can be pa, some musician can be wa. So different things. This is not the same feeling how they feel to see my cue. This is also nice to give the chance to think about the kind of a picture. That is this is more like an abstract piece. I wanted to give the chance, something like this. Or maybe just I wanted to have a cue just to stop. Very easy thing. I think more or less jazz player as a leader could always give just a key as a, position or how to say, cue sentence of the gesture.
Yeah.
I guess so. I saw also Duke Ellington, the one of the best. So clear and wonderful. It's not big moving, but it was really together to make one. I really love this.
Amazing. Thank you so much. My next question is for Alex. How did you approach the process of arranging every single Thelonious Monk tune for your project Monk's Casino?
Monk's Casino is actually a collaboration of the quartet Die Enttäuschung and me. I met these guys already about more than 20 years ago, and we had a common interest in Monk. So we had the idea to make a project which could represent Monk as a portrait of all his 70 pieces in one special arranged performance. Most of the because they played Monk before, most of the arrangements are from them. And when I met them, they had already many pieces in their program. And I contributed some ideas of myself and helped to bring the whole thing on the way. So this was more or less the story about Monk's Casino, which was kind of successful thing, and we still go on to play sometimes together.
It's wonderful. And just as an aside, the one time that I saw you in concert, you played a monk tune. So that was really a special treat for me. Aki, I want to ask you a similar question, but if you could describe your process for approaching any standard jazz composition, and is it the same process when you're playing alone versus when you're playing with other musicians?
Yeah, when I play alone, I have a complete freedom to create the harmony and I like and improvise basic on my musical interpretation. But when I am with someone together, so with the musician, I think about how I want to play any standards tune and the sound of the color. So, most of the time, I think I don't really recognize and I don't think about anything very special. I like to do something like, I don't make any special, but the sound of the color is very important for me, standard. So at least as a piano player, I could think about something. This is same thing like with solo or with someone, but not really special. Also, I let them go, especially in the standard tune with whom together. But anyway, I have a certain picture of the sound.
Thank you so much. And a question for Alex. So you've formed and led at least two major large ensembles, which I mentioned at the beginning, the Globe Unity Orchestra and the Berlin Contemporary Jazz Orchestra. In your experience, what are some of the most important aspects of leading a large ensemble? And a different question, but it's a related question, so I'm just going to ask it together. Would you describe what goes into the process of bringing together a large group of musicians? Everything from deciding who to invite to making sure that they actually show up to gigs, and all of those details.
Yeah, if you like to make a project with a large ensemble, I think the most important thing is to have first an idea of what you want to make and also be ready for a lot of organizational work, especially if you don't have a manager and have to organize many things yourself, what I actually did many times. So about the process, I can say when the musicians are chosen, and this would be musicians of my choice, of course, musicians I know, and I'm trying to bring together the right people, then we get in contact, negotiate about details, and then we meet and play. Sometimes when we have to play pieces, we need rehearsals. It takes a few more days, maybe. But most times I can be absolutely sure that everybody will come. Anyway, they're getting paid for this as well.
So that's how you make them show up to the gigs, you pay them.
Please.
I'm just kidding. I'm saying the way to get musicians to show up to the concert is to pay them, because in the US musicians are so poorly paid. It's like, yeah, maybe that's how you get them to come. You just pay them a salary.
Of course, they want to play and they are interested in the music, and of course, they get something for it. So, in most of the cases, if not anything special happens in between, any disaster or sickness, they will come. And I had always a good experience when I could set up a thing like this. So of course a lot of work and excitement as well, but we could do it. The first performance was in 1966, and every 10 years we make an anniversary concert in Berlin. And I'm sure everybody will come when he is chosen. The Globe Unity Orchestra. Yeah. The Berlin Contemporary Orchestra was different because this was some collaboration between Aki and myself, and the artistic idea and goal and aim was more to perform and produce pieces of contemporary jazz composers, like we played pieces of Carla Bley and Misha Mengelberg, Manfred Schof, Kenny Wheeler, and so on. So we did this for about more than 10 years because we had a good chance to work on the Berlin radio, which was called Rias Berlin at that time.
And a question for Aki. One thing that a lot of people remark on about your work, your music, is your tendency to work in small configurations. What is it about small groups that attracts you?
Yeah, I'm particularly interested in the performance of duo. It is interesting to see how far the two of us can draw music together into the world. But I always my other group like play festival as quintet. Also now I'm playing with my group. It's called Japanic band, also quintet. So and sometimes with guests. This means also Alex said, like in the past, Alex and I had a very contemporary jazz orchestra and also play Eric Dolphin ensemble. This big group, but I think it makes no really different in the end whether I express myself solo or in the large ensemble. But duo is something very special. What I said, it's just the two person who communicated and to bring one word. This is very clearly and very much personal feeling, like I do with Alex as piano duo and Han Benning is the drummer duo, and now I play also with Daniel Yadman the tenor sax, and also Luis Clavis, also clarinet. So a lot of my how do you say favorite mission I like to communicate as a duo.
Thank you so much. And another question for Aki.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can talk about what it takes for you as a performer to create or to bring into existence what I would call a sound world that's so fully realized that as a listener, in a manner of speaking, you feel like you can enter it or sit in it, occupy this sonic space.
Just concentration, and certain sound and space I would like to feel. But the very important thing is concentration myself.
And a question now for Alex. I wonder if you could describe, Alex, the communication that occurs between you and other musicians, specifically in the context of free improvisation. So, does the nature of this communication change when the ensemble gets larger or smaller? Do the musicians communicate differently when some aspects of the piece have been determined in advance versus when it's a completely spontaneous composition?
There are many ways to work with improvisation. If you go for a so-called free improvisation, it's the most important to make the players concentrate and listen very intense whatever happens musically. And they should be ready for an appropriate reaction and or interaction, whatever. Open end is sometimes better, even so. It depends on a little bit of luck. But the good thing is that players don't have to think about it and can just concentrate on their playing and what is happening. So you can come to very good results when to reach these points. Of course, to complete the question, is more difficult and more complicated as larger and as bigger the ensemble is. If you play in duo, you can just concentrate on your partner. But as more musicians are together, it makes it, of course, a little bit more complicated. But anyway, the most important thing is to get really into the music as much as possible, and then it may work out.
And so along those lines, a follow-up question, but the one that I want to pose to both of you, could you describe the state of mind that you enter when you're improvising very deeply?
Yeah, to have no hesitate, or the hesitation, hesitation, and power of concentration, what also Alex said, and the consciously to really to make energy to like intuit. That's very important, I guess.
From my side, I would just say, forget about everything else, even about my own name when I play and improvise, just to be in the music completely.
Yeah. Wow, that's a really lovely response. Thank you. Now back to just Alex. This is sort of two questions, but again, I'm going to ask them together. First, during your time running the FMP label together with a few other musicians, what were your top priorities or goals for the label at that time? And second, again, going back to your work in the 60s and 70s, when you were creating some of the music that helped to define what we today call free improvisation, what artistic goals were you working off of back then? And do you feel like you accomplished those goals at that time? And then finally, are your goals as an artist today similar, or have they changed as you've advanced in your career?
To start to answer your question, I think since the emergence, we have to go back to the beginning, since the emergence of free jazz around the beginning of the 60s, it turned out that a priority and goal to organize the new achievements more in a professional and efficient way. For example, going for money from the cultural administrations to make workshops and concerts happening. Workshops, concerts, production of long-playing records and CD on FMP, which was most free jazz. Speaking about current goals, this is the second part of the questions. I go very strong now for my new trio with Rudi Mahal and Dagnar Magnus Narvesen as a drummer. Of course, the four-hand piano productions and concerts with Aki. We have a very good special program playing solos as well on these concerts when we play together. I do some quartet work as well. Something for large ensemble and orchestra maybe later.
This is your idea for nowadays.
Yeah. This was what I'm now busied with and what I like to go for in the future.
So I'd like to say also something. Anyway, we are on the last train. I want to play until the last day of my life. Next year, I'm going to start a new project with very young musicians to improvise, or more improvise, with my certain musical idea in a large ensemble. This is my idea because I have, like you said, so I have many duo projects, but in meantime, I wanted to also start to get a very young musicians together to make a kind of improvised music, not too much to write the composition, more like to make a good improvised ensemble.
Mm. And speaking about current work or current projects, I mean, at least my impression is that the two of you, I mean, individually, you, Alex, and you, Aki, like you've both had this kind of creative explosion over the last several years where you've been putting out so much new work. I mean, I remark on that because it's, you know, sometimes as artists get older, they slow down. You guys seem like you're speeding up or at least keeping the same pace. I wonder if you can say what's behind this explosion of musical output.
It's still our great desire to play as much as possible, to compose and concentrate on our work as long as we can.
Yeah, same to him. I really love to play music anyway, and also I love to eat a lot of good things with Alex together. Even we have to fight as German food or Japanese food. But anyway, uh, however, our big wish is anyway continue to play the music and continue to bring our wish what we can do. This is really important for the life, maybe both of us, and good eating, because we need our energy.
That's very true. Now to wind down the interview, I'd like to do a little lightning round of sorts where I name an artist, and then I ask one of you or both of you to share some memories or some impressions that come to mind related to that artist. So it can be a short little observation or a long story or, you know, anything that you feel like sharing. So I'll start by asking both of you, whoever wants to go first, to speak a little bit about Han Benink.
So, Han, yeah, very good old friend and a volcano of a drummer, with also a wild sense of humor as well. So we are still great friends, and I hope I can still sometimes play with him.
Yes, for me, he is one of my really best and favorite players, so drummer. To play with him again next month, and also I think Belgium and Norway, and he's very attractive person, a lot of humor, and always makes me this how do you say surprise on the stage, and he has a lot of still he has many desire to play and play and play, and he's a typical, I guess, Dutch, how do you say, national, how do you say, taste of the humor. How do you call this?
Yeah, there is a little bit of special Holland, Netherlands, Dutch attitude.
Netherlands taste.
A Dutch flavor.
Nice. I love him.
My next question is for you, Aki, to say whatever comes to mind about the vocalist Maria João.
Maria João, she's living in Portugal. I met her, it was long time ago, and we played together 7 years. She was a very talented singer, and she could improvise, very unique, and anyway, very spontaneously. She's a very interesting person. I remember many story about our, how do you say, concert, and we also fight a lot, really, on the stage. Even a little small story, we had to make a recording, and she did not bring anything for the, because singer needs words to sing, no? But I don't know, she forgot, or she was too lazy or somehow. And I was very angry about her, because she had to know we had to make a record. And one, I think before we had to go to Germany, we was playing some other country. And one day, we never spoke anything on the stage. We never see each other, just we play. But this is the best concert at all.
That's really interesting. The next person, I'd like a response from both of you, whoever wants to go first. Speaking about Axel Dona.
So I start. Axel is a real excellent musician. He can play very well bebop, for example, and he is anyway many-sided. We played together in Monk's Casino. We even played together some of Bernd Alois Zimmermann's music in Cologne at the radio. And he is a very good free improviser as well. So I'm very happy that he is one of my friends and people who I can really work with him.
Yes, I must say, Axel Dona, we had a band together. It's called Canon, with Axel and Kazuhisa Uchihashi is the guitarist. And I really love the way of different approach what he did, especially an improvised, very nice, and also he's very intelligent. I really like him a lot. And also, it was a time Axel and Thomas Hebera, we worked together with Berlin Contemporary Jazz Orchestra, Axel and Thomas Hebera. It was nice, how do you call it? Not combination, it's the same trumpeter, ne?
Same level of playing.
Level of
quality.
Thomas,
Very different. But,
we say Tommy. Tommy went to the States, but anyway, both anyway in the Berlin Contemporary Orchestra is the member of the trumpet section. I love anyway trumpet as Axel and Tommy also. I like to say.
Thank you. The next one is I'll pose it to Alex alone. Evan Parker, I believe he's one of your longest collaborators. So I want to hear about the nature of your connection, whether artistic or personal, interpersonal, and talk about how your working relationship has evolved over the years.
Yes, Evan. I always like to say he is Coltrane's best student. In a sense, not just imitating or try to imitate his style, but making music from the same spirit, very serious. And he transformed his style on another level to to create a new style of playing. But there is some similarity about the seriousness and attitude of Coltrane, I think. But a very, very own and new language he could find. And I know him for many, many years. Since the middle of the 60s already, we played in Globe Unity, and we had, main thing was maybe the trio we had with Evan and Paul Lovens and myself. We have been working with this group more than 40 years together. It was a very slow development because we played most live performances in jazz clubs, and this was maybe also an important point to form out the style we could develop. And of course, such a long togetherness also means a great friendship. And we still play together, and I just had the chance to do something with him in England at the Café Otto for a Brötzmann Remember concert. I could play 2 evenings with him, and it was just fine. With excellent rhythm sections, yes.
And actually, I mean, you just mentioned the late, great Peter Brötzmann. That was the next person I was going to ask about, so I don't know if you'd like to just continue.
Yeah. Brötzmann, a very, very important figure in our music since things changed in the 60s, roughly speaking, in the history of jazz. I would say he was not there to play the saxophone in a conventional way. At a turning point in jazz history, he found his own musical language by artistic necessity, I would say. So a quite honest approach to the music. And he was able, and this is maybe the very important point on him, to express by his playing the spirit of his time. Anyway, he is a galleon's figure in free jazz. And his seed is growing up, and there is more free jazz in the world nowadays than ever before, I think.
And Aki, I know you've played with the great bassist Reggie Workman. I wonder if you could talk about him at all.
Reggie Workman, yes. We worked together with Sunny Male or with Rashid Ali as a 90 years time. And anyway, he is a real jazz bassist, I must say. And he has such a many experience with really great musicians in the USA. And he has a strong sound. Yes, I like him very much.
And Alex, I wonder if you could talk about 2 artists who both played in the Globe Unity Orchestra. One is Ed Thigpen, and the other is Steve Lacy.
Ed Thigpen actually never played with Globe Unity. He played with us in the Berlin Contemporary Jazz Orchestra. But Steve Lacy played for many times with us in Globe Unity as well. And I have learned many things from him because he was a quite experienced musician and also contributed some of his pieces in our Globe Unity program. So he was important for me also as a kind of teacher and musician to work with.
Yeah, wonderful artist. And I'd like to now just close the interview by asking you both to share some thoughts or reflections on the late, great artist Tristan Hunsinger.
Tristan?
Yeah, Tristan.
Yeah, I used to play with him, my string quintet together. Also, it was a time like the 95 to 1998, something like this 20th century. And then I must say, he was a very, very unique and very special person for me. Very sensitive, and sometimes makes me very, how do you say, surprised because he reacts. Sometimes I never sing before on the stage. Suddenly he wanted to sing or a kind of actor. But I like his composition very well, and he wrote something. And anyway, it was a time I did with him as a string quintet. It was very, very nice, and it was very difficult because this string quintet was, he speak English and little Italian, but one is the Italian guy, he's playing violin, but he never speak English, he never speak in Germany, of course German also knows Japanese. And one guy is come from Japan, he speak only Japanese. So it was communicated very difficult, but even so, Tristan wanted to translate to us. Sometimes I was not sure what he said, but it was a nice experience with Tristan. Bravo.
So I can also say something about Tristan. He was really an exceptional and remarkable musician with a very strong own attitude. He played as well, or he played also in a Globe Unity Orchestra for some special productions, and I recorded with him for FMP. There was a CD, title is Broom Riding, with Rudi Mahal and Paul Lovens. As far as I know, he changed from classical music, what he plays before, to improvisation, and really made an important contribution to our new music. And it's really a great loss that he was dying also this year for the whole scene.
Last year.
Yeah, last year, excuse me.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, Alexander von Schlippenbach, Aki Takase, it's been such a privilege getting to talk to both of you. Thank you so much for making yourselves
Thank you.
available.